Hi folks, welcome to your mwis Friday Planner in association with Ellis Brigham. We move into the start of April and no fooling to say that there's further wintry weather in the forecast during the week ahead across the mountains. We have a chilly weekend, temperatures then staying near or below freezing point on many tops. Some contrast from Saturday to Sunday in terms of the weather across Britain as a whole. We'll look at the detail in a moment. The outlook for next week though is looking rather unsettled as low pressure takes charge, some wind, some rain and some more cold air with the scope for snowfalls. Let's have a look at the weekend then, and Saturday's chart sees high pressure around, fairly slack pressure across the British Isles as a whole. We've got a generally northerly airflow still around, so maintaining the rather chilly feel to things that's been around in recent days. Temperatures on the mountains starting off sub-zero for most, drifting up a little bit through the day, may just lift above freezing point in some areas, but the higher Munros I suspect will stay below freezing point. Mainly dry conditions across a good part of Scotland. Some showers again with some snow and some hail, mostly brief, mostly flurries across England and Wales, but locally just frequent for a time. Wind speeds overall are fairly light, just a bit gusty occasionally if around those showers. Now just to run through the sequence through the weekend, this chart shows you the precipitation and the cloud amounts. The whiter the colour, the thicker the cloud. Where there's some blacker colours, that's the clearer sky. Now early on Saturday morning, some showers across Wales, maybe frequent for a while across more western and northern regions. Some of these quite heavy as well, even chance of an isolated rumble of thunder in one or two of these showers. A few showers too, just drifting in off the North Sea towards the easternmost hills around the Cheviots, one or two maybe just getting into the Pennines. Now showers will form a bit more widely as the day goes on across England and Wales. Again, these mostly brief as we've seen in recent days. Now cloud will tend to fill in a little bit across the Highlands, so some sunshine in the morning, fairly patchy cloud starting to fill in more across many inland regions through Saturday afternoon. Best chance for sunshine typically nearer to more western coast, but may break through occasionally further inland. A scattering of showers then across the Pennines into the Peak District. To run the story on overnight and into Sunday, frost again where skies are clear, but high cloud is building across Scotland. That ahead of fronts coming in from the Atlantic into Sunday daytime, and that's the start of a change, at least temporarily, as milder air starts to arrive. Now, as fronts come into cold air, there's the scope for some snowfall for a time on the leading edge of a frontal system. That turning increasingly to rain, though, to higher levels as the day goes on, and increasingly wet across the northwest Highlands through the daytime, and that rain and snow on its forward edge spilling further eastwards across the Highlands with time, patchier towards more central and southeastern parts, and that same system getting further into the southern uplands, and later in the day some rain preceded by a bit of snow on the tops getting into the lakes and the North Pennines too, and by sunset and into the night that area of rain will advance further southwards into Wales and the Peak District. That's how Sunday looks on the synoptic chart then. For Sunday daytime, much of England and Wales in for a dry and a fine one. Really very few showers compared to Saturday and a decent amount of sun, but some cloud banks may just come on eventually to some western hills near the Irish Sea. And the cloud will also lower to very low levels across the hills and mountains where the rain comes in across western Scotland. The wind strengthening too, getting to gale force in places across some of the tops. It's a windy picture that takes us into Monday. Gales across many of the mountain tops through the day. Severe gales for a time on some of the higher areas, particularly ahead of the cold front coming down from the north. That could well be 60-70 miles per hour or locally more on the tops in gusts for a time. Now it's looking a rather mild and murky pattern for many on Monday. Some rain, some drizzle across many areas. Most persistent across western facing hills. Now that could be just generally wet for most of the day. Go a bit further eastwards across East Wales, the Pennines, eastern side of the Highlands, the rain a bit patchier and lighter, and the cloud bases a bit higher. Western areas really shrouded in fog to lower hill slopes, and western Scotland could still stay more persistently with heavier rain. Now that turning to snow again as colder air comes down from the north, a bit uncertain on the timing, but that change of air mass again moving in from the north with a lowering of freezing level as the day is going on. A degree of uncertainty continues as we head into the middle of the week, just exactly where the fronts ripple themselves to by this stage as milder and colder air shuffles about in the weather systems. It might just be that we go into a milder air mass again as the wind flow is west by southwesterly with some further rain and drizzle at times, more persistent across Scotland, but watch the detail. Not quite sure exactly on the positioning of the fronts at this distance. A rather blustery day across many of the high tops, and the scope for low cloud and some precipitation in there. Northern Scotland could still stay cold enough for some snow on the mountains. By the middle of the week, it's likely that those fronts will sink southwards again, and with some uncertainty how far southwards the cold air gets. But it looks chillier. It may well be a more substantial drop of freezing level once more, which puts many of the hills and mountains below freezing point, even as low as 600 metres or perhaps lower across parts of Scotland, and 600 to 800 metres is quite possible for England and Wales. Again, we'll watch the detail in the days ahead, but we're back to wintry conditions over the mountains by this stage most likely. Some precipitation around, some snow, some hail maybe if it turns showery for some areas, and looking rather windy again with the risk of gales or even severe gales across some of the tops. So not a particularly pretty picture as we go into midweek, and even the later part of the week and towards next weekend is likely to stay mixed as low pressure is more on the scene now. It may just be a brief window in between weather systems, either Thursday or into Friday. Timing and detail is uncertain, but overall I think if there is a window, it's quite short-lived before the next area of low pressure and some weather systems comes in. We may well stay with the cold air that's in place, particularly across Scotland, and fairly cool too for England and Wales, even into the start of the weekend. Possibly though as we go further on, as just the airflow turns a little bit, we might drag some milder air back up from the south, so as next weekend progresses, it could be that temperatures lift above freezing point again toward the high tops, with further wind and the risk of some further rain arriving, as low pressure and some fronts lying to the west are not too far away. To finish with, just a look towards Easter in the general trends that we can try and get out of the forecast modelling at this distance. This is the 7-day pressure anomaly. This first of all for the 11th to the 18th of April. So that indicates that still lower than average pressure will be around the British Isles. So staying rather mixed, staying showery, a little bit unsettled at times. Temperatures still on the cooler side, maybe just becoming a touch milder though if we do turn the airflows a bit more often towards the southwest. High pressure is lying somewhere between Spain and Portugal and the Azores. Now that may just be starting to build as time goes on, and if all goes well, that could build further northwards across Britain and Ireland as we head towards the following week. That's the week from the 18th to 25th of April, so just beyond Easter, and that would give a more fine settled spell as we head further ahead with high pressure back on the scene. We shall see how that Easter outlook is shaping up in next week's video. All your local details every day for the next 3 days ahead on the mwis website. That is your Friday planner in association with Ellis Brigham. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.